Hey everyone, it's Hannah here and Kim from Belvista Studios. In this video, we're going to be talking about user testing. So user testing is something that we do for our e-learning projects, and it's really important. It really helps you get your solution right and know if something is not right before you launch it out to the world. So it's something that we really recommend. What I'm going to do in today's video is I'm going to ask Kim about user testing because she has a lot of experience with it. So she's going to share her knowledge with us and give you some practical takeaways. So let's get into it. Are you ready to go, Kim?
Ready.
So question number one, what is user testing, Kim? How would you explain it?
It is validating your idea outside of your own environment. So like we can do our own checks internally or just as a one-person practitioner doing your own testing, but it's not until you put it out and get other people that have not been exposed to it to test it and validate that it works and achieves the desired outcome.
Yeah.
So I think it's going outside your little bubble and saying, hey, can you give me feedback? And that could be like on an email or to like a big app or something like that, but it's getting other people's perspective that they're physically using or interacting or doing something with it. Yeah. Going, yay, it works, or this is broken, or you need to make this improvement or adjustment.
Yeah, I love it. That's really cool. Like the good way that I think about it, I wrote a blog on user testing. And it was saying, like, imagine you had videos that you put into an e-learning course, and for you it worked fine. Like you as a developer, the video works great on your computer, but potentially when you put it out to the organization, they might not have the video software that plays the video. So something as simple as that, you can spend all of this time creating something that works well for you, but it's not until you put it out to your end user.
Yeah.
You have no idea how there's so many problems that come up for us where we're like, we never would have thought that would even be a thing. Yeah. So it's just, it's so important.
Yeah, it's even when clients are like, oh, can we put this YouTube video in, this TED talk in the solution? You're like, sounds great. And then they block YouTube. In their
exactly.
So,
they can't, it's
finding those things out early.
Before you spend too much time and effort and it's too late. Or people are trying to do your solution and they can't. And they're like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Solution over. Well, we have just spoken about it, but is there any other value that you think user testing can bring to people's projects?
Yeah, you find things that are broken.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And you find out if it's actually achieving the goal that you set out to achieve. Yeah. Because a lot of times, if you're not continuously, we refer to it as a success statement. If you're not continuously referring back to that at all times of the project, you can get in your head and create a solution that goes off track.
Yeah.
So the user testing allows you, because if you're saying this is what we're trying to achieve, help us understand if it has achieved that based on your feedback parameters. And they're like, why do you even have this in here?
Yeah, like that doesn't make sense. That doesn't work in our context or whatever.
Yeah. So it gets you out of your own head, I guess, and make sure you're on track to achieve the goal.
Yeah, love it. How many users do you think you should include in a user testing process?
I believe 5.
We have spoken about this before.
Yeah. And we've had a user expert.
Confirm that.
Yeah, so that's good.
Cool.
So what tends to happen, they say, and we have experienced this, is if you have more than 5 people, and this is just how much data you want to validate, but I guess the benefit of saying 5 is that it's not unrealistic to achieve.
Yeah.
But what happens is after 5 people, they start saying the same thing. So they start giving you the same feedback. They start identifying the same things. And then I guess it's just a matter of where more people come into that benefit. Why you'd ask more than 5 is going, well, we need to prioritize what changes or what improvements we're going to make. And if 100 people said this and only 5 people said this, you would naturally spend potentially more through other decisions. The 100 people probably is something you want to pay more attention to than just the 5.
Yeah, I love it.
So 5 people is a nice sweet spot. And thinking about who those people are is quite important. Probably the question you're about to ask me. But it's like getting people that are actually going to use the solution. So your end users, your learners, having them run through it and go, does this flow make sense? Was there any point that you were unclear or thought, what are they talking about here? Was there anything broken that you noticed? Any gaps that you're like left questioning, wanting more? And even asking them, what did you take away as a learner? Because then you're validating it back against those learning objectives.
Yep.
to make sure that you're achieving that. And then you want like maybe someone that's in from the tech perspective, testing it, like does it work on all browsers, all devices? And then I would say get one of your key project stakeholders, an approver of the project, to do some of that user testing as well, so they're continuously on that journey.
And then I come back and say that's not how I wanted it.
Doesn't look the way I want it.
Yeah. Well, that didn't work the way I wanted it to. Or, yeah. I think it's cool as well to think about like your different audience groups. So for example, say you were creating something for an organization that had like indoor staff and outdoor staff, like construction, like a local government, construction workers, and then office staff, like trying it with those different audience types, I think is really useful too.
Why?
Audience? Because they have they're in a different context. So even though they work for the same organization, they more than likely like work in a different environment. So like outdoor staff might not have access to computers. They could be doing like the e-learning on their phone, whereas the office staff are doing it on their computer. So you could find different issues in those different groups.
Yeah, definitely.
How long does user testing usually take? Or how much time should you like set aside for it?
So I think whatever the experience is the definite minimum time. And if you got to estimate it based on what are they going to do. So how many things are you asking them to give you feedback on? What's the feedback parameters, such as does the content flow? Is there anything broken? Improvement suggestions. So think about what you're asking for feedback on, and then think about how is that person communicating that user testing back to you. Do they have to type everything back to you? Is that in a Word document that they're having to take screenshots and say, here is where I found a broken link and this is the one? So just break down how they're going to give feedback to you and what they're giving feedback on, and do, even to estimate the time, think about how long would that one specific task take me to do, and then multiply that by how many things you're asking them to do. So definitely if it's a 20-minute e-learning, for example, 20 minutes plus all the things you're asking for feedback on, and how are they expected to give you feedback? Because if they're just ringing on the phone, they're like, on page 16, there was a broken link, and then when it talked about this particular topic, it then jumped to this topic and I had no idea. It might be a 5-minute phone call, but you've got to be there documenting your notes, and then what do you do afterwards? So you got to think about your own kind of format and estimate it that way.
Yeah, cool. When do you think you should use a test? So I originally had the question was, should it be a completed solution? But from what you're saying, it sounds like there's different stages of user testing. So just to help people understand, do I create a quarter of my solution and then get them to test it, or do I do the whole thing? Or
I think that basically the whole process of your project is a bit of a user test. But if I think about getting into the real intention of getting learners to understand, is this helping us meet our success statement? I would think you have a solution where I think the content they need to give feedback on. So if we think about the content and the actual tangible solution, there should be a point where they are giving feedback. Now, whether that's through the discovery workshop, because they're giving input and they're approving, as well as the other stakeholders approving that high-level strategy that says, these are our learning objectives, this is the sub things within that. Maybe that's enough at the content phase. And then the next time users, your learners, see it, would be a tangible product, but not the first time that the tangible product is produced. So the second time. That's because I say this because we work to 3 rounds of review. So the first one, there's probably going to be lots of mistakes. There's the disconnect between content to now a tangible product, and people seeing it for the first time in that format, and what plays out there. So capturing all that feedback, and then a refined, improved process, but not perfect. We don't want them to see it perfect for the first time, or perfect or a finalized thing as a user, because then when are you supposed to capture their feedback? So I would say at round 2 of the tangible product, give them a play. They'll find new things that you as subject matter experts, your client as or stakeholders as subject matter experts haven't seen yet. So they're going to give that fresh perspective and help you just really hone it in for that last approval period.
Yeah, I love it. Very cool. What's an example of something that you could ask your user during user testing if it was something that you're watching them do in the moment?
I think silence is the main thing. So you're an observer. You're not there to help them get through it. You want them to fail. You want them to find broken things. So you're sitting back. First of all, silence.
Yeah.
That is what you are. Then when you do notice, I tend to actually hold everything until the end. So go through the whole thing, and then at the end I'll say, hey, you were at a screen and I noticed, so call out the behavior.
Yeah.
Can you help me understand what was going on there? Can you help me understand what you were thinking there? So for example, like that's easy when you can see them get stuck. There might be a period where when something's broken, it's easy. Broken link on the screen, it's not doing what it's supposed to.
Yeah.
That's fine. But there might be a point where you just see them, like if I'm thinking about eLearning, where they're like hovering their mouse and they're a bit slow, and you're like, just click there.
Like why are they? Yeah.
And so you might say, hey, I noticed on that screen with the image of the dude and he was wearing this funky hat.
Yeah.
You paused. Can you help me understand what was going through your head? Or just can you help me understand what was going on for you there? Leave it a bit open. That's where you get like, oh, I was just thinking, I was actually reflecting back on my own workplace. And so then you go, oh, that's cool. That was a really good learning moment that they were having.
Yeah.
It wasn't that they were stuck in the solution. They were actually reflecting and trying to think about how they might apply it back into the workplace. So I think, can you help me understand? Outline the observable behavior, and then can you help me understand?
Yeah, I love that. And I think that also highlights that you shouldn't make assumptions, because it'd be easy, like if you saw someone hovering thinking they don't know what they're doing, and if you just write that and don't follow up, like that can really impact the way you change your solution. So I think that's a really good point that you brought up, like checking everything. Don't ever think that it's just obviously that, because you just have no idea. Yeah,
so true. And that's the whole point of user testing.
Yeah, definitely. You don't know. Don't try not to have your own biases and how you expect things to be. Do you have any other tips to help you with user testing? Like anything else that you would suggest during the process?
I'll just say always ask for feedback. Like if you don't have feedback included in your processes now, it is vital, because I just think about clients that have worked with us in the past, and the reason they continue to work with us is they say, Kim, the error is the work that you send through from Bella Vista Studios is error free.
Yeah.
We don't have typos. We don't have broken links. We don't have all these things. And I'm just like, well, you shouldn't have that when you hand over a product.
Yeah.
So, but I see how it happens, and it's because you get caught in a project and you have your blinkers on. You are trying to do things to the best of your ability, but you miss things because you're so consumed by the project. And we see that in our own processes. That's why we have peer reviews. Like Hannah will do something, I review it, and she'll be like, oh my God, I'm so stupid that I did that.
Like I'll check something a million times and be like, it's all perfect. And then you'll find things and I just didn't see it.
Yeah. And it's not that you're not trying to do the job to the best of your ability. It's just there's so many things going on. So I would make sure that you have a clear feedback process and be very clear on what you're looking for feedback on at what part of the project. So that's just what I'd encourage you to do.
I like that, how it's like the first stage we sort of say like look for spelling, look for grammar, make sure the content's right, and then as it moves on it's like, is it like ready for the world? Like it's a whole different filter that they have when they're looking at it. Cool. How do you decide whether feedback from user testing should be actioned or not? Like whether you should do something about it or if it's just someone's opinion?
The success statement is one thing to get through the opinions, because that's a big thing. Like as the project evolves and the the lifespan of it goes on, opinions do come out. And that's where people say, oh, I think we should include this or whatever. And you say, that's an opinion. And you have to validate that as an opinion or something that will help add value to the solution. When you have your success statement, it's very clear to go, does it meet the success statement? Yes or no, put it in, take it out. When it comes down to, someone might say, we don't like the blue, we want it green. You go back to your feedback process earlier where you actually had it approved at some point. So why are they giving it if, well, that's just our internal processes. We get things like that signed off and then we develop to that, so it can't change. So for that reason, I'd say, well, why is this person giving feedback on that particular thing? We haven't asked for color or look and feel feedback because we've already done that. It's approved. So then you can go, oh, we don't need to action that because they've obviously missed the brief, which is why you have to be clear on the parameters you're asking for feedback on. And then I guess if more than one person's bringing up, you want to question why is that coming up and what have we missed in our process or left out that may be enabling that to happen? Can you think of any other specific examples?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just like from you speaking about that, I thought about how to respond, because sometimes it's like first being curious, like not making an assumption that I'm not going to implement that. It's like being curious around like what's the reason behind that, and looking back, because if you didn't look back at the decision that was made earlier, you probably would just make the change, and then you'd probably have to make the change again, like revert it back to how it was. So I guess just keeping track of like every decision that you make, and that's what we do. Like we record, this is a decision that we made and this is the reason why, and it was made by, say, Victoria on the 28th of October, whatever. So we can look back and say, okay, Victoria made that decision, this is the reason why. With this new data that we have, this new user testing feedback, how does that play out now when we look at like the bigger picture? So I think that's really important to do. And then my other question for you, because I know we sometimes do it, but how to communicate back to the user if you don't implement their feedback? Do you just not tell them, or do you need to leave a comment or something and send them a document so they can see, or explain to them this is why we haven't done it?
For our own internal processes, what we do is we always document a decision. So why it has, if it's not action, why it hasn't been action. That's for us in the future. If someone comes back and says, we brought that up before,
we asked you to do this.
And like you have multiple projects going on, like you can't hold everything in your head. So you just want to go back and go, that's why. Now, what we would do as a general thing is the next time something goes back to a client, we'll say, here's your previous feedback if you want to refer to it. But we never individually pinpoint a person and say, here's your feedback and how it's been considered or not. We just kind of, because what we're trying to do is move people on. If they really care about it, they will go and review the feedback. We'll provide the link and say, if you want to check it, go do this. And if that person's like, oh, I brought up about that thing and they haven't done anything about it, let me go make sure that the comment's in there. They'll go check the comment and then they'll see our response. And then they can go, oh, that makes sense. A decision has been approved and blah, blah. Or they might go, no, like I see where they're coming from, and then it's just a discussion. So they might say, I see where Velvista Studios is coming from, why they didn't, but now I have a bit more context that I didn't share before.
To help them
so I'm
understand.
gonna, and that's how it plays out.
I love it. That's really cool. I think it is like, it's a good lesson for me when I realized like how important it is for every single user testing comment to make sure that you're not just like making a quick decision, you're actually thinking about things individually and thinking like, what is the best decision, and recording that so you can always like refer back to it, because you obviously want to make the best decisions for the project as a whole, and you also want to be able to explain to the client or a user why you didn't go forward with their feedback. It's cool.
And I think that's like, we always talk about what's the intent, what's the problem you're trying to solve. With that thing, with one piece of comment, like one feedback comment, there's so much behind it. And the problem you're trying to solve is you don't want a disagreement, you want clarity on their end, you want clear actions for yourself of what you've done and where you're headed next. Can I read my comment and my justification in a few months' time that it's going to make sense? So there's so much going on. So what is the problem I'm trying to solve? And you're thinking about the consequences that could play out as a result of the decisions that you make there, as opposed to just going, I'm not going to action that. Because it feels really hard at the moment.
I've definitely been there, and you're like, you need to stop and think it through. It's just a habit you build, hey, being really thoughtful around everything you do. Cool. Is there anything else you'd like to add? That was my last question.
No, but we're on Instagram Live. Let's just have a look and see if anyone's got a question there. No, we're good.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Kim, for sharing your knowledge. I hope everyone has got some practical tips, which you have, because there was so much practical advice that you shared in that video.
Well. So
Yeah.
Hannah applies instructional design and human-centered design to the questions that she asked. So if you're ever like, oh, I wanted to ask that question, that's what I was going to think next. She's putting herself in your shoes, like really empathizing with what's going to add value to you. So when we go on about human-centered design is the way to go
It's
for your
amazing.
instructional design, Hannah's applying that. So that's why you always have good questions, and I believe that's why the quality of our stuff that we put out is really good.
Yeah, human-centered design is the best.
Yeah. And if anyone,
so are you. And so are you. And if anyone has any questions that I didn't ask, feel free to comment below. We can respond in the comments. But thank you so much for tuning in. Definitely do user testing. It's so worthwhile. It'll make such a big impact to your solution. It'll help you release something that's successful, and you'll pick up on things before it's too late. And it brings your users on the journey as well, brings them along and makes them feel included, and they sort of like co-create it with you. So it is, it's a really awesome thing to do. But yeah, thanks for listening.
Bye. If you like this video and it resonates, you should check out the Creator Hub, creatorhub.belvistastudios.com. There's heaps of resources and support and templates on there to help you on your journey as an instructional designer or someone in the e-learning world. And please share this with anyone that it will add value to. So we appreciate you.